Mike, we'll call the meeting to order.
So here we
It's
are,
7 o'clock,
for the
and I
budget
need
for
to
next year.
read
Each year it just comes around
the
so fast.
governor's
I don't know if it feels
preamble
that
for the
way to
remote
you.
meetings.
But for
So, good
Marathon,
evening.
we have been
This is
well
the
supported
December 14th
in the past years.
open meeting
So
of the
in
Hopkins
terms of
Conservation
looking
Commission,
towards
which is
next
being
year,
conducted remotely,
we don't have
consistent
any
with Governor
staffing
Baker's
requests.
amended
That's for our
bill
general education
of June
population.
15th, 2021
We
due to the
have
outbreak of the
great things in
COVID-19
place that
virus.
you've supported, and
To
ELA
mitigate the
tutor.
transmission
The director
of the
has
virus,
moved
we're
to
complying with the
the
amended
ELA
bill that
coach has moved
suspends
to the
the
director
requirement of
position,
the
so
open
we are
meeting law
in good shape,
to
if you
have
will.
all meetings
The
in a
need for
publicly
us, as you
accessible
heard from
physical
Dr. Zalewski's
location.
presentation, is with the
This
preschool
meeting will
program. So while that's
feature
technically
public
not in our
comment.
budget, I
For
feel that's
this
part of our
meeting,
school. So
the
that's part
commission
of
is convening
my
by
thinking
Zoom
as I
app
move
as
forward.
posted on the town's
When we look at
website,
what next year will look
identifying
like
how
for
the public may
Marathon, we're
join.
projected for
Additionally,
K1 to
the meeting
have
is also being
562
broadcast
children.
live
So the
and is
forecast is
being
a little
recorded
less
by
than what we have
HCAM.
now for first grade. Right now we have a little
Accordingly,
over
please be
300.
aware that others
And next year
may
we
be
should
able
have
to see you
290.
and
So
take care
that
not to
is,
screen share your
we're
computer.
able to accommodate that with
Anything
ease.
that you
It sounds
broadcast by
ironic,
voice or
290,
video
300
may be
we've got
captured
that,
by the
but we
recording.
do. For
Supporting
kindergarten, the
materials that have been
forecast
provided to members
projection there is
of the commission for this
272.
meeting are
So we do
available
not
on the
need to
town's
adjust
website.
divisions at those grade levels.
After commission
We'll
members have
maintain the
discussed
14
each
first grade
project
classrooms,
application
the
on the
13
agenda, the
at
chair will open
kindergarten,
the
and we're
discussion
doing quite
to
well with
public
that.
comment.
When we look at
The chair
supplies,
will
there's a
first
slight
ask members of
increase
the
for our
public who wish to
supplies.
speak to
So that
identify their name
supplies
and
are
address.
up.
3 minutes will be afforded for
Let me look here. I didn't
public
put the
comment. Finally,
percentage,
each
but
vote
Susan, you can
taken
help me.
in
It
this
might have been
meeting will
up
be
maybe
conducted
4,000
by
or
a roll call
5,000.
vote of the
What
commission
we
members.
had done is
So we'll do a
depleted
roll
our
call
stock, if you will.
attendance
All of
for
our
tonight's
supplies,
meeting.
we didn't use
Melissa
different
Ricos
things
and
last
Kerry
year during the
Reed
pandemic.
will
We
not
used
be
different materials
joining us
that were sent
tonight.
home with our remote students. So in terms of our overall supplies, we've sort of emptied the backups,
bear
if you
with me
will, so
while I,
that accounts for the
admit
increase. Not that
people
we're
into the
ordering
meeting.
anything spectacular. We do use a lot of things,
So for
consumables
commission
at
members,
our level. We use
Janine
a lot of dry
LeBlanc,
erase markers. We use a lot of things
Ted
such as
Barker-Hook,
that.
Here.
While we work on
Ed Harrow,
using technology quite often, we still use a lot of paper at our level because that's what's best for children to really get that,
Here.
writing tool in their hand and write. And we have lots of
Jim
different paper that
Cirillo.
we use for that, from chart paper, construction
and this is
paper.
Jeff Barnes. For staff,
It's a lined paper,
Kim,
it's lined paper. So if you
Jim
ever
Nicolai.
wonder why all that paper, there's a lot
Here.
of writing and drawing.
Anna Rogers,
Kindergarten was actually working on
And
wordless books.
for the
and how they
commission's
tell stories
consultants,
today. So
Matt
how great is
Verrill.
that? So we use a lot of paper.
President.
and
that is
Joe
fantastic.
Orzel
So it's a very short presentation because I'm not
of
asking
Lucas
for
Environmental. Okay,
just a
great.
slight increase with
Thank
the
you, everyone.
supplies. So our budget next
All
year
right,
for
let's
supplies
jump
would be
into the agenda. We have a busy evening
46,205,
tonight.
which the year prior.
Documents for
Susan might be faster than I
review,
am, but
20th Century
Okay.
Homes, 6
Okay.
Leon's Way. This is a certificate of compliance
General supply
request.
account actually went down 7.3%.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking the wrong way. You know what? Overall, I think our overall budget
Yep,
went
Jeff, it's
slightly
just the
increased, but that's
document
because
that
of
was
contractual
on the
obligations,
public
which is on
information.
slides prior.
Okay,
So
so
when
I
you
think
look
we
at
discussed
why is
this
that,
at the last meeting,
that's
so
what
I think
do
we are
each year,
good to
make sure
go
we
on
meet
it.
Those contractual needs.
Yep, I just need a
So that is
signature
what we've
authorization.
got. We
Okay.
are so thankful
If
to
I
have
can get a
that building.
motion to
We could not
authorize
function
Kim
without that building where we are now
to
for
sign the
space.
document
It is
issued in the
wonderful.
form
It's
currently
amazing
before
when
the
people come into
commission.
our building, they just comment how
Authorized
warm
to
and
sign on
welcoming
behalf
it
of the
is. I
commission
know the
members
size is
present,
quite
please.
large, but it was just built with such intent. It's wonderful.
So moved.
All right, Janine, in a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Ed, and we will do the roll call vote. Janine,
Aye.
Can you comment on
Ted.
this year's enrollment?
Aye.
Ed.
20, the uncertainty
Aye.
parents might
Jim.
have from the 2020
Yes.
to 2021
and I'm an
school
aye.
year. Did you
All
see
right,
that
great,
impact,
thank you.
either
Draft
kindergarten
minutes
first
for
grade enrollments
November
this year? Did you see
2nd
people holding
and
back,
November
sending
30th,
in
2021.
2020 to 2021?
Did everyone have a chance to
And then,
review
kind of
those? And are
roll
there any
into
questions or
kindergarten
comments?
this year? And is that maybe why kindergarten might be forecast to
If
go
I can get a
down?
motion
So,
to approve the minutes for
anticipate-
November 2 and November 30, 2021, please.
So moved.
All right, Jim, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ted. We'll do the roll call vote. Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye, use one of the middle names.
and Jeff. I'm gonna have to start calling Ed Eddie. So we have this, so we don't get this mix up anymore.
Well,
Ed, is that okay with you?
Ted, use your real name. That we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you could do Edwin and Theodore.
Okay, well, let's go with Theodore. I like that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Fox Hollow, they continued to the next meeting. Kim, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Hickey 97 Franklin Road, this is a request for a certificate of compliance. Matt, I saw your comments. It looks like everything is pretty straightforward on this, that we are good to go. Is that,
I'll defer to Joe on that. Joe did,
okay, Joe?
Yeah, that is correct. It looked, everything looked good out there.
Okay, perfect. If I get a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 97 Franklin Road.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Ted, and a second, please.
I'll second.
All right, and we'll do the roll call vote. Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Theodore is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right, great. Okay, no public forum requests tonight, correct, Kim?
That is correct.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's jump into the hearings. Picard, 34 Downey Street. This is an after-the-fact notice of intent for a boat lift, which is a continuation. Okay,
Yes, hello there. My name is Mitch Maslanka. I'm representing the applicant Paul Picard tonight to go over what we have provided you most recently. So at the last hearing, you guys had requested that we provide a site plan stamped by a certified professional surveyor or engineer to ensure that the boat lift was on within the property bounds. So that you can see it's not on the neighbor's property over there to the left side of the screen. So it matched up pretty well with our GIS sketch that I had provided. So you can see the boat lift is on the extended property boundary. So we checked out DEP's comments. They had no technical comments available. So we think we are good to go. So let me know if the commission has any questions. I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
okay, great. Thank you, sir. I think from my perspective, I don't have any questions. You know, the only comment that I would say at this point is it still needs to go through the chapter, 91 approval process, you know, as you know, through the state. But for the purposes of the NOI, I think we're good. You know, thank you for clarifying the location of the lift. And I'll open it up to other commission members for questions or comments.
Chair,
Yes,
this is
go ahead,
Matt.
Matt.
So I guess the question somewhat remains that, you know, what was constructed is not on the applicant's property per se. It's within the Great Pond. And I know there's, you know, lots of these that have gone on the lake over the years. So I'm not necessarily looking to set a new precedent here, but I guess I just wanted to, you know, raise it to the commission members' notice that, you know, it's the boat lift, which is like a temporary structure that can be removed. There's also a deck that was constructed, you know, at some point in the past that I presume will also be part of the Chapter 91 license application. You know, I'm just not sure if the commission wants to issue the order prior to chapter 91, maybe having more comment as far as, whether this is going to be approved or if there's going to be something different about this. Because the original comment letter from LE was sort of raising the question, because the original plan showed that the work was occurring within the boundaries of the lot owned by the applicant, and clearly that's not the case. There was the figure that showed it outside, which is consistent with the survey plan. Again, it's just, there was another one where the commission said that, you can do work within the land you own. But outside that, you're technically doing work on land owned by the Commonwealth. So just throwing it out there for whatever discussion may or may not need to be, but just to sort of clarify our original comment.
I still have the same concerns that Matt does, not necessarily the side boundaries, but this is a dock that's being built on a deck that's already extending out from land that extends out, and that is what my concern is.
Hey, Jeff, this is Jim.
Yep, go ahead, Jim.
That's a great point that Matt pointed out, and I say that I would want to wait for everything to be resolved before issuing the order of conditions, so we don't get caught like maybe we have in the past.
Through
We
the
don't want them
chair.
Yes, go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I just want to clarify for the benefit of the commission. I did have quite a few back and forth emails with a representative at Mass DEP Waterways. And she had indicated to me that the Chapter 91 process awaits the order from the commission. So that would be the order that Chapter 91 would be looking for. So, I kind of had that question to them, is this something that you're going to review and that you're going to look at? And she kind of said, we'll start the process if and when an order of conditions is issued.
So I think what I'm hearing you saying, Kim, is that we need to take a vote on this from a commission standpoint. And then if the commission approves the NOI at that point, the DEP initiates the Chapter 91 permit review process. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if we don't vote, they will not. So I guess there's no point in waiting for the DEP to make a decision on this permit, because they're not going to until we issue the NOI.
Correct.
So does that make sense to the other commission members? So I think the point Kim is making is that we have to issue the NOI if it's an affirmative vote and it's issued. At that point, the DEP initiates the Chapter 91 permit process. Is that clear to everyone?
Makes sense now.
That's clear to me, but I'm not necessarily comfortable approving something that is not on the applicant's land. From that diagram that was just being showed, it's on the property of the lake, not in the property of the applicant.
Right. But Janine, I think it's the lake is officially owned by the state. So the DEP has the ultimate, or, the state has the ultimate decision on whether it's approved or not, but they won't initiate that approval process until the NOI is issued. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess I struggle with, is it in a jurisdiction to approve something that's not on the applicant's land, or in our jurisdiction, I guess.
Right. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
As part of the state's review for the boat lift, would they also be taken into consideration the deck that was built there without any authorization or approval? I mean, that's
And what-
in the Great Pond too. I mean, that's off property too.
Yeah.
Right.
I have, and I know that this project started with Dawn, and I know that Dawn did, from some emails in the file, coordinated with DEP as much as possible to give them as much information as possible. What they do with that information is kind of out of my control. Another alternative that the commission could pursue is that usually when there's a separate landowner and applicant, or multiple landowners, we require multiple signatures on the notice of intent form. That being said, I know it's extremely difficult to obtain signatures of people from the state for this type of activity, and I'm not sure that it's been asked in the past. I would have to go through and kind of do a little bit of a historic review.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ted.
Kim, is that difficult simply because of red tape and bureaucracy, or because the state doesn't like to give state-owned land to boat docks?
approval process through the state. So is that understood by the applicant?
That is understood, and we will be keeping the commission informed through Kim. We'll be sending her communications with DEP, and we'll send you guys the approval once it comes.
Okay, great. Thank you. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, Merry Christmas.
Through the
Yeah.
chair, can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, Ted, go ahead.
Does the state get the commission's vote, like a 3-2 vote, or do they simply get commission approved?
I think all they're interested in is that the NOI got approved, but you know, if they look into the detail of the NOI, they'll see what the vote count was, Ted.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how thoroughly they look through the
Okay.
document, but Kim, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I can send them our order with the vote count and, you know, all the other pertinent info. I've been kind of trying to hit them over the head with paying attention. So
I would appreciate that. Even though I voted yes, I would really like them to know how close the vote was so that hopefully they can spend a little bit more time than they might otherwise.
understood.
Okay. Okay, moving along.
For the chair?
Vision- Yes, Kim, or Anna, sorry.
Sorry, the commission is not meeting for 3 weeks. Could we authorize Kim to sign a signature page, please, for that order?
Yes, if I can get a motion to have Kim sign and issue the NOI before the commission, and that it be and that she's authorized to sign on behalf of the commission members present.
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
All right, and we'll do the roll call. Janine,
Aye.
Theodore,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. Thanks for the reminder, Anna. Okay, Vision Construction and Design, 178 Ash Street. This is an amended notice of intent for a single-family home and buffer zone restoration.
Good evening, Jamie Bissonnette from Zenith Consulting Engineers for the record. A few weeks ago, we had met and gone over the comments from Lucas Environmental. The comments detailed analyzing the roof drain system and also increasing the plantings in the disturbed buffer zone in a much denser manner. They recommended about 80 planting species. So what we've included in our email last week, I believe it was Thursday or Friday, over to Kim and Anna, was this updated plan for their review and also the drainage calculations as requested. We're hoping to get some feedback so we can finalize these plans and hopefully close out the amended order at the next meeting. So what we've done is we've come up with roughly, I believe it's 54 trees and 26 shrubs. I do note that there is an error where it says 6 trees of all the different heights on the side. That should actually say 3 on each line. But the intent of this is to actually stagger the heights of the trees so they're not all the same size, choking each other out. We're looking to get a spread of different heights with different species. So you'd have 3 trees at 10 feet in height, 3 trees at 5 feet in height, and 3 trees at 2 feet in height, roughly, for each of those species planted, as shown over to the left-hand side. Also mixing in the sweet pepper bush and the high bush blueberry in between, and we're still keeping in the New England seed mix on the ground to just keep with the upland buffer zone species, growing long term. This will provide nice seed that's in the ground mix, as long as the commission and their agents are in agreement. So if Lucas Environmental and and Kim are comfortable and the commission are comfortable with the planting. The other thing that we did was we did take a look at the drainage, roof drainage basin. We've attached a report. We found a slight difference in what we would use if we're designing this from scratch. We typically apply an infiltration rate taken from stormwater management itself based off of the sand characteristics from the USDA. Out here, we find that a 2.41 infiltration rate of inches per hour would be applicable. And so what we did was we modeled it through HydroCAD, which is attached. And in doing that, we found that we really should be using an 8-foot diameter basin with 2.5 feet of stone wrapped around it. And that's a 4-foot tall basin. The previous basin was 6 feet in diameter with 3 foot of stone, so it's a very minor change, but we did need that additional volume going from the 6 foot to the 8-foot diameter basin for our calculations to work. So we're showing a detail on our mitigation plan showing the 8-foot diameter basin with the stone. Should be down to the right-hand side. And so that is shown, and it still stays within the existing limit of work. That was the original plan of record. So those are, I think, the major items that we were asked to address at the last meeting. I'm happy for any feedback, and if the commission seems to be satisfied with the plantings and the roof drain, then we would like to finish up the plan and get on for the next meeting in 3 weeks to hopefully receive an amended order.
Okay, and I think one of the other outstanding question we had was the PIBs. Have those been identified on the plan?
Oh, actually, no, we'll add you're talking about the placards?
Yes.
Yes, no, those will be added to the finalized plan. That is correct. We did not forget about those. Kim actually forwarded over the pictures. So we'll add that picture detail. But yes, those will be added. When we sent this over, we were kind of hoping to get an idea on the plantings itself, where that was really the tough task for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, that not forgotten. We'll be on that finalized plan for the next meeting, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Matt, this planting plan seems, what's the scale on this, Mr. Bissonette?
It is a 20 scale.
20 scale. Okay.
Yeah, Jeff, I thought the planting plan was a significant improvement. I like the idea of kind of staggering the sizes. I think that makes a lot of sense. There are a couple plants in there that are a little questionable how well they'll do, like yellow birch is really likes its feet pretty wet. And this is, an upland area. I don't have a problem with sort of diversifying, knowing that probably not all the plants are going to survive. So I think as long as there's, I would recommend the requirement for at least 2 years of monitoring to make sure that, some portion, whether it's 75% or 80%, whatever number you want to put on it, of the plantings survive. I think that's fine. But I really had, other than that comment, really nothing else. I thought it was a good improvement.
Okay. And the sweet pepper bush, that typically likes well-hydrated soils too, right?
That'll really kind of grow almost anywhere. You see
Okay.
it in pretty wet areas, but it'll climb right up the slope into buffer zone areas pretty readily.
So it's just a yellow birch that you're concerned with?
Yeah, the yellow birch and again, high bush blueberry likes it pretty wet, but oftentimes the high bush blueberry that you get from a nursery has been grown in fairly dry conditions and is sort of used to that. So you can get it to be successful in both conditions. So it's somewhat, I wouldn't necessarily say you have to take the yellow birch out, but I think just being cognizant that when somebody goes to the nursery to buy these plants, that they understand in what conditions they were grown to maximize the likelihood of success.
Got it. Okay.
To the chair, could I follow up with Matt for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
Matt, it looks like there are 18, if my eyes are not failing me, 18 yellow birches. And if, when they buy them, they're not careful in talking to the nursery, are you guessing 12 don't make it? 8 don't make it? 18 don't make it? Because if we lose 18 trees, that's not insignificant in the planning plan.
I'm looking at 9 yellow birch.
Yeah.
Is it not 6 and 6 and 6?
No, we actually, that should say 3, 3, and 3 on each one of those. So it would be 9 total of each species.
Oh, so the planting schedule is incorrect that I'm looking at.
That is correct. It should say 3, 3, and 3 on each one of those.
Yeah, I was looking at the actual diagram, not the schedule. So if you look at the the depiction for the yellow birch.
Yeah.
And then you look at the map. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them.
Yep.
So that scares me a little less, but that's still 16% of the tree plantings, right? Wasn't it 54 trees?
It is 54 trees. That's correct. And 26 shrubs. And we're happy if there's an alternative, Matt, that you would suggest. We're happy to, or to even eliminate the birch altogether and to go to the 5 species and increase the number.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, Ted, I think there is potential that those may fail, and just, it may make more sense for the applicant to use either a gray birch or a black birch, which are, black birch is sort of more of a true upland plant. Gray birch kind of straddles the line. Gray birch obviously doesn't get quite as big as black birch. But I think if there was a concern, that we're kind of setting things up for failure to a certain degree, that it might make sense to swap that out for whether it's another type of birch or some other type of, more back up type plant that may make sense.
I am completely open to switching to the black or the gray birch. That's not a problem. We'll have that for the final plans. We'll make that adjustment. That way there's no concern over the yellow birch and its longevity.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Bissonette.
Thank you.
For the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, go ahead, Ed.
Can we look at the other planting schedule?
What are you referring to? The other.
There was one of grasses and things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is the seed mix.
Yeah. So I am not a botanist, but my question is, are these all native?
I believe them to be native. They're produced by New England seed mix right here in Amherst, Massachusetts, and they're actually made for wildlife and conservation areas in this area.
Yeah, Ed, I can answer that. New England wetland plants is only going to be doing natives. They're not going to put something in there that doesn't belong.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from commission members or the public at this point? Okay, so we'll continue this out to our next meeting. So we can get this buttoned up. Our next meeting is on the 4th. So we'll continue that out to the 4th, Mr. Bissonette.
I appreciate that.
Okay, if you can please send Kim just an email confirming that continuation, please.
I'll send it tonight.
Great, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, moving along, Ravenwood, 0 Hayden Rose Street. This is a notice of intent for a subdivision. And we have notices of intent for single-family homes, which will also be part of the discussion. Mr. Goddard, are you on the?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Scott Goddard, Goddard Consulting, Wetlands Consultant, Joe Marquardt from JD Marquardt and Associates, responsible for the survey and engineering work on the property, is also on the call. And Craig Nation is on the call as well, representing the applicant.
Okay,
So,
good evening.
Good evening. So if I heard you correctly, we're opening up all the related meetings at the same time. Is that correct? Or are we taking them in a particular order?
Yeah, I think we can open them all up at the same, excuse
So
me, at the same time.
administratively, what's happened since the last couple meetings is the subdivision has been redesigned, reduced in its overall scope and number of lots and footprint. That means that a number of those applications that we previously submitted for individual lots won't be applicable if we move forward with the current iteration. So we'll keep them alive for now, but if these other ones get approved, the likely outcome of those applications will be a withdrawing at some future time. So for tonight, the only ones that we need to discuss is the primary application for the utilities, roadway, and infrastructure. That is application is before us. And then lots 1 and lots 8, which was previously referred to as lot 9, is going to be the subject of this discussion. So the balance of all the lots don't have work proposed within buffer zones. And so therefore they're not likely to have any filing requirements for notices of intent or RDAs. So it's just the subdivision, lot 1, and then what was previously referred to as lot 9, which we're now calling lot 8. So that's it, just those 3. So a number of submittals were given to the board in between these meetings in direct response to the comments at the last public hearing, as well as the Beta and Lucas responses. What you saw from us at the last time we brought this before you was sort of a broader discussion of the 9 to 8 lot subdivision modification. But what you've now been in receipt of for the last week or two, whatever it's been, is all the details that accompany that. So you have now this plan in front of you, which is the revised subdivision layout. That is the 8 lot version of the plan. And then you have all the accompanying documents to go along with that. The modified wetland replication document that Matt Verrill was looking for, the enhanced construction sequencing phasing plan, the updated subdivision plans, the stormwater comments with Beta and all. So I think, and then a more robust alternatives analysis with comparisons between the different versions that were submitted, as well as a response by point rebuttal to the comments. Our goal and objective here in our responses was not to be at all confrontational, but yet to simply apply the requests to this project that were made both by the commission and the peer reviewers. So we've attempted to give you everything we think you've asked for. I know Kimberly sent me some additional comments. I think it was yesterday, saying perhaps some more detail could be beneficial in the phasing plan or wetland replication plan. I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of up to the commission, I guess. We tried to present something to the commission that was consistent with most prior applications that either Joe or I have been involved in Hopkinton. If more detail is warranted, then of course that can be provided subsequently. But maybe what's best first here is Joe could show, sort of talk you through this site plan, some of the details on it that differ from the previous iteration. And then I'd be happy to jump in and show you the comparison graphics that we have submitted with the alternatives analysis. That would be pretty helpful. There's one graphic in particular that has comparison color hatched in areas to show how we differ from previous versions. And then we could talk through any of the details that you'd like to in review of the package with Matt or the
yeah, so I think Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. God. I appreciate that. I think we are good with the current filing. I think, you have walked the commission through this previously, so, I don't think we need another iteration of that at this point.
Okay.
I think what we're looking for is, at this point, is to Kim's email, just a little bit more, and again, I just want to emphasize that we appreciate everything that you and the applicant has done to address the commission's concerns. This is, this current iteration is significantly better, in my opinion, in addressing our concerns. And we're at the 5-yard line. I think there's just a couple more details that the commission is looking for based on Kim and Matt and Joe's input. And, we can boil it down to two things. Just the phasing plan and a little bit more detailed wetland replication plan, so that when the contractor has it, they know exactly what they need to do. I don't want to speak for Kim, but I think there needs to be a little bit more detail around the soil profiles of the area where the replication is going to occur. Kim, does that kind of summarize your thoughts and Matt and Jim's comments, or Joe's, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had as much of a chance to connect with Matt yet, so I don't want to speak on his behalf, but in terms of what jumped out to me in reviewing the updated materials was the two primary concerns in Lucas's last comment, among other items that I think that we've addressed. They had commented that the wetlands replication detail plan wasn't adequate and the phasing plan wasn't adequate. In terms of the wetlands replication detail plan, honestly, I'm having trouble kind of putting it all together, because I'm finding details that are in the narrative that aren't on the plans, or things that are on the plans that are not on the narrative. And it seems like a contractor in the field who doesn't have the advantage of going through the permitting process that we have would have trouble following the various documents needed to successfully put together this wetland replication area, versus just having a single plan with all of the necessary information on it. Additionally, I haven't been able to identify any information in regards to the existing conditions of the wetlands replication area, its hydrology, soils. So that's something that I'm looking for. And the HCC regulations actually call out that the applicant should be following the replication guideline checklist from Massachusetts DEP's Wetlands Replication Guide. And so those are kind of some things that I still haven't seen, that I think, some additional detail will help the contractor and this wetland replication area ultimately be successful. In terms of the phasing plan, it's still one single phase is proposed. And so, for myself, I feel like that's kind of more of a construction sequencing plan than a phasing plan. And I'm looking for additional details to demonstrate how handling stockpiles is more beneficial, or will result in less erosion and sedimentation than managing the extent of the construction to keep some area vegetated as long as practicable. I do want to update the commission that Beta took a final look at the revisions and at Mark O'Donnell's and Goddard's replies, and they didn't find anything that they felt like needed any additional comment, so they were all okay with the final iteration. They did give me one small comment. They said that the treatment train diagram should be included in the O&M plan. So if the applicant could just throw those in the O&M, that would be appreciated.
And that's the O and M plan is a, a condition in the order, Kim, right? So we don't need that as part of the NOI process here. So that can be done subsequent to the decision, but Joe, Matt, did you have any additional information to add to?
Not a lot. I think I would just really reiterate that I think we're of the same mind that Kim was. The comments she just laid out that, on both of these documents, we agree there's some additional work needed. I think I would point out in particular on the phasing plan, it seems like the wetland replication is kind of left to the end, is often the case, and I don't see any reason why that, couldn't or shouldn't really be moved up early in the process, that when that wetland impact area, or even before the wetland impact area is impacted, that the mitigation area could be ready to receive those soils, and the soils can be moved right in there, to be planted if this work's going to occur next spring, be planted in the spring and have a full growing season under its belt. But I agree with really all of Kim's comments. I think a phasing plan having a little bit more graphical component to it can be helpful, kind of shading out areas of what the expectation is on what's going to be cleared first, what's going to be cleared second or third, depending on how many phases there are. Again, so that the contractor really fully understands both the wetland replication construction and how the project is expected to proceed as it is constructed. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, great.
So
Thank you.
just a couple of comments, if I could, Mr. Chairman. This is Scott.
Yes, sir.
So I agree with you. I think we're at the 5-yard line. I appreciate the back and forth that we've had. I think it's been healthy and productive. We're happy to supply, some, sort of buttoned up items to bring this across the end here. As far as the wetland replication stuff goes, what drove the methodology there was just mirroring similar methodologies that have been used in other projects in Hopkinton. I would suggest, but the things that Kim are asking for are fine, I think, in terms of some more details about what the existing spot looks like and documenting that. I get that. The one part I think is that maybe I have a sort of just a different opinion on is I generally like having a standalone document that's referenced by the site plan that you can give to a contractor. I've never run into a problem where that's been confusing or challenging. It's just easier to update, modify, amend as requested or needed, that kind of thing. It's just like having an order of conditions. You can have a cited reference plan. You'll have the site plans. You can have wetland replication protocol document. You could have other things like SWIPs and whatever that go along with packages, and all that stuff doesn't necessarily have to be on a site plan as long as it's incorporated by a reference. So I would like a little more vetting of that piece of the conversation if a standalone report is reasonable or appropriate, or if the commission really does want to see just the contents and guts of the protocol document, shoved onto a site plan. In a sense, you've seen a lot of site plans. Sometimes these plan sets and, Joe's plans are, usually very clear to read and things like that. But I've seen some plan sets, generally speaking, that pages upon pages with all kinds of detail notes. And it's not as though those are automatically just more absorbed by a site contractor than if they're not on the plan. Sometimes a separate document gives it its own weight, as opposed to just getting lost in boilerplate notes that can occur on some site plans. So that's just one food for thought on that topic. And then I have a couple of comments on the phasing stuff as well, but could we just tackle that one issue first?
Yeah, so I'm gonna defer to a conservation agent. Mr. Goddard, I would say if she's happy, I'm happy as the chair. I don't want to speak for the other commission members. I think in my experience working with Kim, the past 7 or 8 months, she's a reasonable person. So I would defer, working with Joe and Kim on coming up with something that is workable, from a contractor standpoint. Kim, does that sound reasonable to you?
It does. Yeah, thank you. And I guess I would just add that my experience as being the lead construction monitor for utility companies, projects, and their, consulting wetland scientist has kind of been the opposite. Every time I'm out in the field with the contractor, they've got the plan set slapped on their tailgate. And they're looking at the plan set.
Yeah, they're not reading through the details, right? So.
And just
I
for an
agree with that.
example on what we see, the planting plan isn't contained on this sheet. So even like that, the contractors now looking all around, the detail doesn't have any, micro grading on it. So you may end up, you may go out there and end up with a completely flat surface. So it's just, I think if the plan had more detail and more consistent detail, it would really help the contractor to be able to get it done in the way it was intended.
Okay, so that's fine. So we'll.
Yeah,
I'll
so
work with Kimberly.
okay, go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say, we'll work with Kimberly and and Joe, and we'll get this done the way that it's being requested. It's not really a problem.
Okay, and I just want to, if I can just stop you there for 1 second to make sure the other commission members are in agreement in this, in this process.
Through the chair.
Is anyone opposed to what we're proposing here?
Through the chair, I have a question, but not with respect to your particular question now.
Okay. All right, Scott, did you want to move on to the next?
Yeah, and
phasing
this
plan?
one, just to talk on the phasing plan, and Chris or Craig, and then Joe may have some things to add on this because it has to deal with how this gets built. Usually the phasing plans I see become more critical the larger the project becomes, and when you have projects that are of this size, I'll call this a medium-sized project, right? It's not just one house lot, but it's not legacy farms or something, right? So you have this kind of mid-sized project here, but that it's all very condensed into one location. And I think what we're going to see is that it really kind of it is not so much a phase in terms of as much as it is a sequence. Because we can't just take down trees in pieces here. They need the trees gone in order to do the regrading, in order to lay the asphalt and the utility pipes. But we've condensed the area now down so much that I don't think it necessarily warrants having a micro dissected phasing as much as it's just a sequencing. Am I thinking about this consistent with the commission, or are we on different pages here? And maybe Chris or Craig, you guys might have thoughts on that topic as well.
I mean, are we mixing words? Phasing and sequencing seem like kind of the same thing to me. But Joe, I'll let your consultant speak. Mr. Goddard, sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm good. I thought Kimberly was maybe actually making a distinction between phases versus just the sequence of the whole activity. So maybe I misunderstood that.
I'll let Kim. I don't want to speak for Kim. I'll let her.
Yeah, I kind of was making a distinction between sequencing and phasing. I mean, I think if there is a single phase, then it's just sequencing. It's not really phasing. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of, there is no phasing plan. It's just sequencing at that point. Personally, I would like to see at least 2 phases, wherein the first phase is concentrated on the roadway, the utilities, the stormwater, and the wetland replication. And then the second phase would be branching out into the house lots. I think it's extremely beneficial for erosion and sedimentation control to keep as much vegetation, or at least, you know, keeping the site from being grubbed. Especially when the stormwater is newly constructed and it's designed to handle flows from, you know, lawns, not open, loose dirt. It kind of helps the stormwater to be able to get stabilized and then, you know, have the capacity that it's supposed to. And that's kind of how I just feel like it's more beneficial than opening the whole site at once.
So Scott, let me ask you and your consultants, what's the timeline on, breaking ground and, getting the houses constructed? Are we talking 6 months, 8 months, a year? Can you provide some clarity there?
Maybe Chris, can you jump in on that topic?
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi.
Good evening.
Yeah, well, and to back up to the phasing part, in that, yes, it's a sequence, but I think it's easy enough to help differentiate it further by kind of blocking out some of the sequence to some more obvious phasing. That should be easy enough, and add a couple little details there that I think will make it more coherent. Just another piece to this is that we're very hands-on, so it's not so much us handing a bunch of papers to some other contractor. We'll always be very involved. In fact, most of the work we do ourselves, and it's rare, but we do bring in subcontractors, but we're very much involved. So it's not a handoff, so to speak, just for reassurance there. And for a timeline, once we start, you always think it's going to go quicker than you or it never seems to go as quick as you planned, but it takes a few months to get some trees down and moving dirt, but we can't get construction on a house lot really going without the lots released. So, we need paving down. From when you start to when you could get some binder down, it's 4 or 5 months, and then it's 6 months to build a house. I mean, I think it's realistic from when you start to when you have a house that's really there and ready to someone to move into. It's a strong year, I would think. Not sure if that's answering the question specifically, but again, working it backwards, you need to get a building permit. We have to have pavement down, bond on the road, and get lots released to planning board.
Okay.
To the chair?
I guess.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Mr. Nation just spoke of, kind of lines up perfectly with the phasing plan. That the first phase, the end of the first phase is going to be, installation of binder coat of pavement. Presumably the mitigation is done, the stormwater basins have been constructed, and some level of stabilization, if not complete stabilization, is done. And then phase 2 is after the lots are released from planning board and individual house construction is done. And I think having some discussion on understanding the time of year, if you're talking a year and presumably this work is to start in the spring of 22, then I think that having something in the phasing that talks about stabilization of all surfaces in the fall so that work can continue on the homes presumably through late fall and into winter. As Mr. Nation said, potentially be ready a year from the time that the project begins. That would be, it sounds like a lot of the house construction would occur during the winter months and into early spring of 23. So I think what Kim and I are, and again, I won't speak for Kim, she doesn't speak for me, is, just putting some of that down graphically and with more detail in this plan so that it, whether it gets handed off to some of the contractor or not, the commission has something that they can look at and say, well, our expectation is written down right here. So that at any point in the project, Kim or Lucas or whomever can go out and say, our expectation was this, and it either is being met or it is not being met. And, when we get into problems is when things aren't being met and then erosion occurs and we've got impacts. And we've certainly saw that on a lot of sites this past summer. And I think it's really, the commission is just looking to avoid these issues regardless of the size of the project. We're seeing these significant changes in storms, and I think the commission is doing a good job of trying to adapt on the fly here. And we can't just continue to do things the way they have been done over the past 5 or 10 years because we're just not in the same environment anymore.
Yeah, that's, thank you, Matt. I think you laid out, I think the expectation, and again, I won't speak for Kim too, but that's kind of my thinking. And I know that Mr. Goddard made a comment, earlier, this is kind of consistent with what we've provided in the past for Hopkinton. But, I think, the message that we're sending to, all the applicants and contractors that we work with is, we're raising the bar a little bit. We're raising the bar in Hopkinton in terms of, what the expectation is. We're adapting and we're trying to be progressive. The regulations are changing. The impacts, from the storm events we're having are changing, which have been witnessed over the past couple of years. And, don't get me wrong, Mr. Nation, you guys, have the projects that you've brought before the commission, have been, we haven't had really any significant issues, but we have to be consistent with, our expectations with, and what we're requiring of all applicants. There are good ones and there are bad ones, but we need to be consistent. And you guys have in the past been very good. We haven't had any issues, but, that's, that's just, again, we're kind of, we're trying to be a little bit more detailed in what we're requesting, a little bit more progressive. And, again, we're just kind of, raising the bar. So, Mr. Goddard, does that make sense to you? Matt's comments, Kim.
No, I understand. And, on these two topics, I think that the applicant and their team can get together and give you something, the Hopkinton 2.0 version of stuff, I guess. So we'll make it happen.
Okay. And Kim, I didn't know, I didn't want to speak for you, but I didn't know if you had anything else to add to that. And a large part of this drive is, with Kim coming on board and really with kind of dealing with a lot of the issues that we've had in town with stormwater, and, complaints and comments that we've got from, residents in town and those types of things. But Kim, sorry.
Jeff, I think you and Matt covered it exactly.
Yeah, and I agree, Mr. Chairman. I think this is fine. You're not going to have any argument for me on it. I've known, Kim now for, even many years prior to her being in Hopkinton from days in Framingham and whatnot, and have a great deal of respect for her capabilities. So I think we can get to where we need to go.
Thank you. Okay. Any comments or questions from the public at this point? All right. So we will continue this out. Our next meeting.
To the chair.
Oh, yes, Ed, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No problem. At the beginning of the presentation, Scott made a reference to lots going away, but lot numbers being kept. Could I just get an explanation for the reason for that?
Kim, I guess if you could post up that kind of maybe comparative document that I had in the alternatives analysis that shows the differences of where we were versus where we are, that might help to show it. It was the cover letter and response letter that accompanied this site plan on my letterhead. Well, or I guess we could have used that. Yeah, this document will be fine. Yeah, right there, that one.
Okay, perfect. Did you say this one, Scott, would be okay?
Oh, we could use that. Sure. Or let's maybe just start with that other one that you just had on the other sheet.
This one?
The one that had, yeah, there you go. So this alternatives analysis was included with the submittal, and it shows the changes from where we were with the previous plan versus now. So it overlays on this version where the houses were proposed versus where they're currently proposed. And when the limits of work are reduced in the areas that are that peach, the green area is the reduction of work. So now, for example, like that lot that the cursor is on, we're no longer encroaching into the buffer zone, which is that little red line is the buffer zone. So some of the work was now pulled outside of the buffer zones, and those lots aren't going to trigger the applications anymore. That's what it comes down to. So really, we just have the first lot right there, and then the one right across the street from it, those two. So those two lots are going to continue to have applications before you, and the only work in the buffer zone on that one there and the one next to it is stormwater related. So that the work on those two lots is covered in the subdivision application. Anyways, since we're going to Hopkinton 2.0 now, this one other thing I would encourage the commission to consider is I think there would have been some benefits to keeping this application as one package, which would be the road with the lots on it all together. Then we wouldn't have this disconnect on so many versions of plans and whatnot. So that's just food for thought as we move forward into future projects together. But that's the reason why we're only looking at lots 1 and 8/9 at this point.
No, that comment is well taken, Mr. Godden. We actually discussed that at an internal meeting a few weeks ago. So thank you.
Yep.
Through the chair, that doesn't really answer my interpretation of the question. I am under the impression, maybe I misheard, that there are less lots now, but
Yes.
that a no longer existing lot, the number, so to speak, for that lot is still being held. And so I question, what's the purpose of that? If there's only, I think it's 9, why do we want a number for 10, for lack of a better word?
So now we only have eight lots. And so now the lots are numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, starting on the left-hand side, at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock and working our way around the clock. Yeah. And that house up in the blue boxes are where they were previously. The clear boxes are where they are now. So that one in the upper left-hand corner, the blue one is now gone. That lot is absent. But there still is a lot at the lot 1 location, bottom left, and one at the bottom right, which is the lot. No, we had it called lot 9 before, but it's the same location. But now we have, this is labeled as lot 8. So there's 8 lots plus the subdivision. So 9
So they-
submittals. But now we're going to remove most of them. We're only going to end up with 3 submittal packages at the end of the day. Subdivision and the utilities, 1 package. Package number 2 will be for lot 1, and the final package is the lot 8/9.
So just, I think what I'm hearing Ed asking is there's no additional lot
No.
in the subdivision that's being reserved that could be developed at some future point.
Oh, no.
Ed, I don't want to speak for you, but is that what you're getting at?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm getting at.
Okay. So did Mr. Goddard answer your question?
I hope so.
Okay. All right. So questions, comments from the public? I don't think there were any. All right. So, Mr. Goddard, do you want to continue this out to the 4th?
Sure thing.
Okay. Okay. If you can just
Thank
send, if you can please send Kim an email with the continuation request, please.
Perfect. Will do. Thank you.
All right.
Through the
thank
chair,
you. Yes, Kim.
just to clarify, the applicant is requesting to continue all of the associated notices, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. Thank you. Good evening.
Have a good night, all.
Okay, you too. Thank you. Okay, moving along, 22 Winter Street. This is a continuation of a notice of intent for a septic replacement and garage alterations. Do we have the applicant on the call?
Yes, this is Seth LaJoy representing Steve McCarthy, who is also on the call tonight.
Good evening, Mr. LaJoy.
Good evening. We're coming in tonight because we do not yet have a DEP number to close this thing out completely, but we believe that the majority of all of the questions that have been asked have been answered.
Mhm.
And we just wanted to have that discussion with the commission to see if we could close this pending the issuance of the DEP number.
So we can have a discussion as to, we got the performance standards. Thank you for submitting those. I think that is what the commission was looking for. I believe that satisfies the outstanding items. I understand that the fees with the state have been sorted out, but again, the DEP number hasn't been issued. But let me let Kim jump in to provide more detail and color.
Yeah, Jeff, that is correct. I believe based on the last meeting that we discussed this application, the commission was looking for the performance area analysis, performance standards for riverfront area. And the last item was just the associated fees with the DEP. I've had some back and forth with Kim Roth, and I believe that now with some additional funding, both for the town side and the state side, that the applicant is going to be resolved with fees. So I have no further questions or concerns with this site. I do recommend that the commission holds off on closing until the DEP file number. But, if we, if the commission discusses tonight and feels good about the application, perhaps it could be more of an administrative approval at the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kim.
To the chair.
Yes.
Hi, this is Joe. Just wanted to note that the wetland boundaries are all approximate on the plan. And would recommend that if the project is approved, that the commission note that they're not approving the actual wetland delineation or the wetland boundaries.
Okay. That's a good recommendation. Joe, thank you. Okay, let me open it up for questions, comments. I mean, my sense, Kim, is that we do not want to close this until we have the DEP file number, just because we don't want to run into issues with a 21-day issuance of the orders, of the order, you know, because if we don't have the number and the 21 days expires, you know, we run into problems there, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, so I think, you know, well, let me at this point just open it up for questions, comments from the other commission members. Okay, questions, comments from the public? All right, so I think, Mr. LaJoy, for all intents and purposes, I think, you know, we are satisfied with the information that's been provided. It is ready to be voted on, and it looks like it'll be approved, but we just need to wait for that DEP number to be issued. So if we can continue this out to our next meeting, which is January 2nd, you know, we can vote on it at that point, or January 4th, excuse me, and then hopefully at that point we'll have the DEP number. Does that sound okay to you?
That sounds perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas as well. Yep.
Thank you to everyone. I'm Steve McCarthy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Cam, anything else for tonight?
That's it.
All right.
I have one comment. So I don't know if it's more of a public forum thing, but when I was listening to the meeting on 11:30, you guys were talking about Hughes Farm, the trail over there, and what's going on there. I have some information from being on TCMC. If you just wanted, if you have it.
Yeah. If you want to give us an update, perfect.
Yeah. So from what I can, if I'm remembering correctly, they did extend the order of conditions, and I believe they're going to come back to us again to get another extension on it. It's been too wet back there to do the work that we had approved. So that's why the erosion control, you know, barriers and all that are still there.
What's the, Janine, do you know what the timeline is for coming before the commission? Is it, you know, in the spring or?
I think it's fairly soon, because I think the extension is almost up. So I think they have to come to us fairly soon.
Okay.
We have another meeting tomorrow night, so I can find out for sure, but.
Yeah, we only have I think we have 2 meetings in January, and February is a short month too. I think we only have 2 meetings in February. Is that right, Kim?
The meeting schedule is not finalized, but I believe that will be the case.
Yeah. So we have January 4th, right now on the agenda, we have January 4th and 25th. And then February is always a short month. You know, there's only 1 or 2 meetings in February typically. Just to keep that, you know, in the back of your mind, Janine.
I will.
Okay.
Jeff, before we sign off, may I ask him a question or two?
Absolutely.
Kim, do we have some violation discussions coming up regarding Leonard Street and I can't remember the name, but the road over there on the lake?
Oakhurst.
Okay, so for Oakhurst, I had a conversation with the homeowner, a lengthy conversation, and he's also been coordinating with the building department. So, you know, I let him know that we've been able to observe mowing a shed and a dock. And, he's agreed that number one, the shed needs to move. And so we talked about placement of that with the building department. Number two, the area that the shed was placed on needs to be restored. And number three, that the dock needs to be permitted. And so he's been in contact with Mr. Marquidant about updating his site plan from his original building approval and going through the permitting process for the shed and the deck, or dock rather. He wants to have a conversation with the commission about the condition in perpetuity on his property for mowing. So I'm going to schedule that for the same time that he comes forward with the dock permit. I've informed him about the functions and values of the wetland that's between his home and the edge of the lake. And, I've also tried to explain to him that he has different conditions in perpetuity than other neighbor homeowners because of that resource between his land and the lake, and that, other people have upland between their house and the lake. But he's, quite adamant. I think he might also need to hear some of that information from the commission. So that's stay tuned. Obviously I just generally in my, being a conservation agent, especially with single family homeowners, I like to try to get compliance rather than just go straight for, anything punitive. And so he's been very communicative. So I'll just continue to work with him to see if we can get him to come into compliance at that site.
That sounds great. And Leonard Street, where the photos I sent you, I haven't seen any change since I sent those photos.
I need to get back out to Leonard Street. I have had a lot of communication with Mr. Petrosi. We have a meeting this week as well. It's been a lot of promises that haven't kind of come forward. So I think at this point, we're ready to move towards, I personally am ready to move towards violations and punitive measures. I do apologize. I had that on my schedule for last week and I ended up needing to be in isolation for a week. So I'm on it this week, but.
So that's likely to be a January 4th meeting agenda item?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Kim had COVID, so she was kind of out of commission for a week. And, Kim has been, as she mentioned, with Mr. Petrosi, it's always, it's a continuing battle, just trying to get him into compliance, doing what we need to do. The commission, just so everyone knows, I don't want to put too much information out there before we have a formal public hearing, but the commission on our own dime had Beta go out there and do an inspection of the check dam, or not the check dam, but the what's the terminology, Kim? For the detention basin, we had a dam at the, in the northwest corner, I believe it was. There was some concern on Kim's part and on my part that it wasn't constructed properly. So, Mr. Petrosi wasn't being communicating with us. So we, had Beta go out and do an inspection, and, there needs to be some additional work on that to get it into compliance. So, Kim's on top of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, we're not giving him a pass on this, by any means. We're definitely on top of it. And I think, as Kim had mentioned, we need to have a fines hearing with him, in the next couple meetings.
Jeff, if I may, to Kim and the commission, I didn't mean for my questions to sound like a critique. If they came out that way, I apologize. That was not at all my intent.
No. Yep. No, I just wanted, it hasn't fallen through the cracks. We're on top of it. or I shouldn't say we're on top of it, Kim's on top of it. So, at the next meeting on January 4th, you should get more details about what's going on.
Thank you. And thank you, Kim. I really apologize if that came out sounding like a critique. That was not my intent in the least.
Not at all. And it's a spreader trench. That's what it is.
Spreader, right, that's okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay. All right, well, I wish everyone has a holly jolly Christmas and a happy new year. And Santa's good to you. And with that, I guess, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Are we getting a new salamander costume this Christmas? Can we finally replace the old one?
We can work on it. We can work
I'll
on
see if it's in the budget.
I move to adjourn.
All right, in a second.
A second to Christmas.
All right, and we'll do the roll call. Janine,
Aye.
Theodore,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. All right, guys. Everyone have a great Christmas. And we will talk to you in the new year.
Be well, everybody. Stay healthy.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night,
Okay.
everyone.